You're listening to episode number 5 of the Fed and Fearless podcast. Today, we're going to be discussing the value of mentorship and how it can point to the person you are being. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Laura Schoenfeld. I'm a registered dietitian and coach trained in functional medicine with a passion for helping women just like you ditch perfectionism and use food, fitness, and self-care to fuel your bigger God-given purpose. I believe that it's possible to achieve your biggest life-changing goals without the frustration, obsession, or negative self-talk that so many women subject themselves to every day. All you need are the right tools, the right mindset, and the faith to turn your dreams into reality. I'm here to guide you along the way. The truth is that you are so much more than a body, and I'm on a mission to help you change the way you think and act at a core beliefs level so you can transform your physical, mental, and spiritual health from the inside out. Are you ready to become fed and fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, meaningful life? Welcome to the Fed and Fearless podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fed and Fearless podcast. I'm Laura Schoenfeld, I'm your host, and today's episode is going to be a little bit different because one, it's going to be a little bit off the cuff. I didn't do any sort of notes or anything for this episode. And two, it's going to be a recap of what I learned from participating in one of the 3 business events that I went to in the last month. Now, a couple episodes ago, we did talk about the different lessons that I learned from 10 days of business travel. And I just got back from another week this time it was Southern California. It was beautiful. I was in Irvine for the event, but I got to hang out in Laguna Beach and Newport Beach and just love it down there. Amazing place. And I was there for an event called BBD Live with a guy named James Wedmore. He is one of my absolute favorite coaches and mentors and podcast runners. He's really a big influence on this podcast, not only in the way that it's structured, but also just the type of topics we're going to be covering. And so this was a really exciting event. I've been looking forward to this for a while. And it was a different event from the last couple that I went to, because the last few that I went to were like maybe a maximum of 150 at the bigger one. And I think maybe 50 at the smaller one. I don't remember exactly how many were at each, but I know that they were smaller events, which I actually really like smaller events. I think it's kind of nice to be able to just be in a smaller space with less people, but being able to go deep with those people. So I really enjoyed those other 2 events that I was at. Now, BBD Live was 600 people, which is a big increase over what the other 2 events were. I mean, literally, it's like triple what the other 2 events were if we added them together. So lots of people there and a big venue and just a bigger production as far as the event was concerned. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect. Like I said, I tend to like smaller events, and knowing that there was going to be that many people, I was like, all right, we'll see what happens. I tend to be an introvert, so I don't like to be around tons of people, and I don't like events that are, I'm trying to think of how to explain it. If you've never been to a entrepreneurial business event before, it's hard to explain what they're like. And if you have been to one before, you know that one, they can be very different from each other. So it's hard to really know what to expect going in. And 2, they can be very energetically exciting and also kind of draining depending on your personality. So I knew going in that it was going to be a lot more people, a lot bigger of an event. The other 2 events I actually was on stage for. So this one, I don't even think 90% of the people that were there even knew who I was. So definitely a different experience. And I was just open to the possibilities of going there. Now, my private coach, Sarah Anna Powers, is part of James Wedmore's mastermind. So I knew that she was going to be there and she was going to be on stage. So I was excited to see her. And then a few of my colleagues in this industry, as well as one woman who's in Anna's mastermind with me, were going to be there as well. So I knew there was going to be some people that I knew. Shout out to Samantha Scruggs and Jennifer Zacconi, who Samantha is a colleague from, I want to say we've known each other virtually for the last couple years, kind of acquaintance like. I don't think we've necessarily had a relationship necessarily, but we've communicated a little bit in the last couple of years. She was awesome. And Jennifer Zacconi is one of the members of my mastermind for 2020. So it was really awesome to get to meet her as well. So shout out to those two ladies if they're listening, and shout out to Anna if she's listening as well, because it was really great to be able to hang out with them and spend some time with them in real life instead of it always just being virtual. So definitely was excited to see some people there. And before the event, I actually got to hang out with Steph Gaudreau, who I know that many of you listening to this podcast know who she is. If you don't know who she is, first of all, you need to know who she is. Second of all, she is currently the podcast host of Harder to Kill Radio, and she runs stephgaudreau.com. She has a book and program called The Core Four, and Steph and I have a lot of overlap with our perspective on health, nutrition, exercise, that kind of thing. We do differ on some stuff. I'm a Christian. I don't actually know what her faith beliefs are. I know she's never told me that she was a Christian, so I'm pretty confident in saying that she's not. But other than that, I think we have a ton of overlap with the way that we work with our clients and teach our communities how to really love themselves and love their bodies, and not always trying to change them or be different. So was so awesome hanging out with Steph. It was a great way to kick off the week because I was there for a week. The BBD event was only 3 days, but just based on the cost of flights and staying in an Airbnb, it was actually cheaper to stay for a week than it was to go for 4 or 5 days. So I had the whole week in SoCal to just soak it all in, get to meet some people that I had known on the internet. I almost forgot. I also got to meet Kaylee McDevitt, who's another RD that you guys might be familiar with. I'm sure she'll be on the podcast in the future. It was just really, really cool to get to hang out with her. We got dinner on the Thursday night that I was there and just got to hang out and talk business and hear about what she's doing with her program, which was really exciting. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget to shout out Kaylee as well, because it was really great to get to meet her. So there was a lot of people that I met in real life at this event, or even pre and post event, that I've been friendly or friends with via the internet. And the reason why I wanted to start out with sharing this, even though it kind of has nothing to do with the actual event itself and what I learned at the event, but the experience was just so awesome to be able to spend quality time in real life with people that I knew from the internet. And maybe you guys are not like me and you don't have hundreds of acquaintances and friends that you've made via the internet that you've never met in real life. But if you do have any people in your life that maybe you've connected with through an online program or a course, something like that, and you haven't met them in real life, there's something really, really special about being able to make that connection in person. Just to use Steph as an example, her and I talk relatively frequently. Like, I don't talk to her as often as I talk to my friends that live in North Carolina, or obviously my husband or my family, that kind of thing. But we actually do talk fairly frequently about business stuff and where we're at with our entrepreneurial journey. So we definitely connect relatively frequently outside of, just like Instagram and that kind of thing, where you might normally connect with people. But there's something that I think really solidified our relationship by being able to spend some time in person. So that was so worth it to me. I know that she had to drive about an hour and a half to get up to Laguna, so I really appreciated her coming up to spend some time with me, especially with that gosh darn California traffic that's so bad that everybody was talking about while we were there. So I was super stoked that she came up, and it just goes to show you that there is so much power in relationship and in-person relationship, being able to meet people in real life that are people that maybe you know from the internet. There's so much value to that. And I say this having met a lot of the people that I have connected with virtually in person in the last month. It's been, like I said, about 17 days of travel out of the last 30, which is pretty crazy. I don't normally do that much traveling. And so it was just a whirlwind of a month. October just flew by. So I would say that one of the best things out of the last month of traveling, and certainly BBD Live was no exception to this, was being able to make those connections in person. So if you're a business owner, or even if you're not a business owner, if you have connections that you have with people online, whether that's friends, mentors, coaches, if you and I have worked together and we haven't yet met in person, that's something that I want to change. I want to make more opportunities for us to spend time in person, because I think there's something that really cannot be replaced online. And so if you're listening to this and you ever had any desire to meet me in person or to spend some time with me in person, let me know. I want to hear about it, because I'm looking for more opportunities to create that space. And, there's a lot of different ideas that I have about how to do that. We just came off, or we will be actually, I'm recording this before the event. So I'll definitely have a recap of the Fed and Fearless live event coming to you soon. But if you're listening to this podcast, we've already had it. So that event is kind of the inaugural in-person experience that I'm creating for my audience. And I hope you were able to come. If you weren't, there will be more events. So don't despair. We'll make other opportunities to spend some time in real life. But I just wanted to put this out there as something to start paying attention to and to start valuing, because again, I think it's really easy to just get almost overly attached to the internet as being a source of community and the ability to connect with other people, other like-minded people, other people that are helping you on your journey towards better health, a better business, whatever you're trying to accomplish. And so I am all for creating virtual relationships. I think that there's a lot of value, especially in the entrepreneurial world. It can be hard to meet people that are doing what you're doing, depending on where you live. I live in a small town in North Carolina. There's not a ton of entrepreneurs out here. I have a few friends who are doing similar stuff, but it's not like I'm surrounded by entrepreneurs all day, every day that I can bounce ideas off of or share struggles with. So having those virtual connections has been so crucial. And I think the same thing goes for any personal development journey. Having people that are on that journey with you is priceless, and it really makes a huge impact on how successful you can be with whatever goals you're trying to accomplish. And that goes for health goals as well. This isn't just about business. This isn't just about doing a beauty counter event or something that is helping you create a business. I think we also have to think about our communities as being a source of support and inspiration for anything that we're trying to accomplish in our lives, whether that's parenthood or marriage or a health and fitness goal, or anything that we have ambition for or aspirations for. Being around other people that are working towards what you want and also have accomplished what you want is really priceless when it comes to actually reaching the goals that you've set for yourself. So actually, that's a perfect segue into what I wanted to share with you about this event that I went to, the BBD Live event. Now, like I said, there were 600 people there, and James is, if I do any sort of business podcast that I'm going to share on this Fed and Fearless podcast, if I do any episodes that are talking about entrepreneurship, there's a pretty high chance I'm going to mention James for a variety of reasons. One, because like I said, he has very strongly influenced my desire to start my own podcast again. If you ever listen to his, I even have been inspired by the way he structures his and the way he bounces between solo and interviews and case studies. So I just want to give him a big shout out for even just inspiring this podcast, the way that I'm doing it and my desire to do it as well, just because I've gotten so much value from listening to his podcast is called the Mind Your Business podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or a career-driven person in any sort of way, this is a great podcast to listen to. It's literally if I was going to pick one to listen to, I don't know, the rest of my life's kind of like a long time, but let's just say the next year, if I could only pick one, it would be his. So definitely highly recommend it. It's so useful. And so much of it surrounds the change of belief and the change of perspective that's necessary to be successful when achieving our goals. And I've really been inspired by what I've learned from him and his business training program, Business by Design, to translate that into stuff that can be helpful for women on the journey of physical health and body satisfaction and self-love, all of that good stuff that I teach in the Fed and Fearless program. I've used a lot of what I've learned about myself and about the way humans and their brains work in creating that program. And it's been amazing to see how well it translates into helping women with their health and their body image and all that. So I love James's work. I think overall, he's a person that inspires me to be the best person I can be. And that's saying a lot for someone who, up until a few days ago, I'd never met in real life. We've never had a conversation. It's like, for him to be able to inspire me from afar like that is really powerful because it shows me what's possible with what I'm doing. I know that even though there's many of you listening who maybe we'll never meet, or maybe we meet in a few years from now, whenever that happens, maybe you join one of my programs, maybe you don't. There's so much opportunity for impact. And I think as an online entrepreneur, it can be hard to remember that sometimes. Like right now, I'm talking to a mic in front of my computer alone in my house. And it's really easy to forget that there's hundreds and thousands and millions of women out there that I could have an impact on, because entrepreneurship can feel isolating. It can feel lonely. It can feel like you're just talking into a void sometimes. And I know that that's not true. But if any of you are entrepreneurs out there, I know you know what I'm saying when we say, sometimes it feels like maybe you don't have the impact that you want to have, or that you're not reaching people, or that you're not making a difference. So being able to see the difference that James has made in my life, as well as other people's lives at this event, people who their lives have been radically transformed, just amazing stories that came out of that event. Just being able to see the impact that James had on all of us was so inspiring to me, and really makes me ready to step up my game in terms of how I can inspire and influence and change all of your lives. So this is why I wanted to talk about the value of mentorship on this episode, because again, I call James a mentor. He's not a private coach of mine. My private coach, Sarah Anna Powers, is in his mastermind. So I have a little bit of like a connection that way, but he's never coached me privately. And I think that's important. The reason why I wanted to point this out is because I think there's a lot of belief out there that if you're going to get value from a coach, it has to be a one-on-one relationship. And that is not true whatsoever. And I'm living proof of that. I love my coach, Anna. If any of you are a Christian business owner, she is the person to work with. So shout out again to Anna for being amazing. And I believe I will have her on my show at some point. I know she's trying to find some space in her busy calendar. So y'all will get to meet her at some point. But she runs a mastermind that I'm in. So I do get some group coaching from her, but she's my private coach. So we have a relationship. She knows what's going on in my business, and she can give really a very specific advice and support, knowing me and knowing what my needs are and knowing what my challenges are. So I find a lot of value in private coaching. Now, all of that said, I want to talk about group coaching and the opportunity to work with a mentor, not in a direct fashion. So that's how I work with James. He doesn't know me. I don't talk to him. I don't interact with him in his programs. He's in the group interacting with people, and he'll answer questions or do some coaching virtually for people. But there's over 3,000 of us in that program. He is not giving all of us individualized attention. So I want to share this experience with you because I know there's a lot of people out there that I've spoken to when they're offered the opportunity to work in a group situation that they don't think it's going to be as valuable, and they don't think that it's going to be as helpful as if they get a private coach. And like I said, I do not believe that. I think there's value in both. There's actually a big reason why I do both private mentorship and group mentorship, the way I've done with James's Business by Design. So I just want to make sure it's clear that I have gotten so much value from watching James and being in his program and seeing the way that he coaches other people, seeing the way that he interacts with other people. That has in and of itself inspired me to be a better coach, a better business owner, and even just the way I interact in my day-to-day relationships, it's affected those as well. So you can learn so much from having mentors at various stages of your personal development journey, whether that's a private coach, whether that's a group coaching program, whether that's just listening to a podcast like the one you're listening to right now. My hope is that I can inspire you to live your best life through this podcast. And even if you and I never interact one-on-one, or you never join any of my programs, I want to create that value in your life. And I want you to say, hey, I had a transformation that happened because I was listening to the Fed and Fearless podcast. So that's my big goal. And if you have at any point had a transformation that came from this podcast, please let me know. Send me a DM on Instagram. I love to hear about that kind of stuff, because that's ultimately my goal with this program, is to expand my ability to impact the world and to reach more people. So all of that said, I was incredibly impressed by James's this is going to be kind of a BBD inside joke kind of thing, but the way he was being. Now, this is something I'm going to talk about in the future, this concept of who are you being as opposed to like, who are you, or as opposed to like, what are you doing? What actions are you taking? And so the idea of who are you being as being something to focus on is something that I've learned so much about being in James's program and working with Anna and just listening to James's podcast and being able to watch him in real life and see how he practices what he preaches was just really incredible. And there was a night that we had a cocktail party that was sponsored by one of the event sponsors. And so we were all in there, and James came in, and he could have very easily just grabbed a microphone and gone up and said, hey guys, welcome to the party. Thanks to Kajabi for sponsoring. Hope you guys all have fun. And then he could have left. It's funny. One of his friends, Mel Abraham, who's another awesome entrepreneur that I've gotten to meet. This is my second time in real life. He's amazing. He was kind of telling me, well, I don't think he should necessarily be hanging out this long. He was there like an hour later than he was supposed to be. And he was putting a lot of energy into interacting with the hundreds of us that were there. So I was a little surprised that he stayed that long. And I was thinking to myself, this is probably going to be my only opportunity to introduce myself to him, because he's running this big event. He's on stage. He's behind the scenes. Like, there's not going to be a lot of opportunities to just like chit chat with James. So I made a decision that I was going to make sure I introduced myself to him and told him how much I appreciated the impact that he's had on my life and just the lives of the people in that room in general. And so I waited, because there was a crowd around him for like the entire event. It was kind of funny. It reminded me of like, this must be what it was like when Jesus was on earth and people were just crowding around him, and you had to like duck and dodge to try to get up to him to like talk to him and interact with him. Not that I'm saying James is Jesus. Do not take that the wrong way, but I'm just saying it kind of made me think that must have been what it was like when Jesus was on the earth and everybody wanted his attention. So I kind of hung out, waited a bit, was chatting with some other people. I got to meet a really awesome entrepreneur named Kate Northrup. If you guys are not familiar with her, definitely check her out. She has a book called Do Less, and her talk at the event was on how the menstrual cycle affects our productivity. So I'm hoping I can get her on the podcast in the future, because she was just so inspiring, so awesome to like talk about menstrual cycles on this stage. There was mostly women at this event, but even the men in the audience, it was like just really badass for her to be able to do that. I thought that was really cool. But so I got to hang out with her a little bit. And then finally the crowd seemed like it was starting to die down, and James was still in the exact same spot that he had been in since he arrived at the party. And so I walked up to him and like was respectful to the people that were there. I didn't want to like step on anyone's toes or try to like push anyone out of line to talk to him. But I finally got my opportunity and I introduced myself to him. And it's funny because I know this may not come across to you guys in the work that I do or how I show up on like Facebook Live or Instagram or even on this podcast, but I tend to be a very nervous person around people that I'm excited to meet, or like people that I don't want to call them a celebrity because that's kind of dumb, but people that I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's James. I want to talk to James. Like that kind of way of thinking about someone versus thinking that they're just a normal person, which I know he is a normal person, but I think you guys know what I mean. It's like seeing a celebrity that you've followed for years and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to introduce myself. So I was expecting to be like super nervous and sweaty and weird and awkward. And the funny thing is when I went up to him, I believe that he's got some kind of like energy going on that actually affects the energy around him. And maybe that sounds a little woo-woo to you guys, but I do believe in energy being a thing that we can control and manipulate and like affect the way that other people experience us. So I went up to him and I was like, wow, I'm actually really calm. This is kind of weird. I didn't expect to be this calm. And I shook his hand and I introduced myself and I told him how much I appreciated everything he was doing. And I have to say this out loud because I feel like the more people I tell, the more real it's going to be. I told him that I was intending to apply for his inner circle mastermind. And it was so funny because I was like, oh, I'm so proud of myself for telling him that I was going to do that. And then he says, okay, well, when are you going to apply? And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know when applications are open. Like he totally threw me off guard there, but he was just like, so matter of fact, like, all right, well, what's the date? When are you applying? And, it was just, I don't know. It was funny to have that experience of being like, oh wow, somebody's like calling me out even higher than what I had, the expectations I had put on myself, and really putting a date to that commitment. And that's something that I think James is pretty famous for in our industry, is that integrity and that commitment to his word, and things that he says he's going to do, he does. So that's part of that commitment, is not just saying you're going to do it, but actually saying when you're going to do it. So it's just really cool to meet him. And I felt a little bit emotional later in the week when I was reflecting on the experience, because just seeing how James was showing up for all of us the way he was, again, 600 plus of people that were there. And then he had to manage his team, and he had people there that were his guests, that were guest speakers. And just the way that he was showing up at every single moment, excited and happy and present, engaged, like treating all of us like he was excited to see us and we weren't just opportunities for him to make money. That was honestly probably the biggest impact that he had on me the entire event. And what I realized is something that I'm committing to verbally. So you guys can all check me on this, because even though I've been in business for about 6 years now, I think for me, it's been really easy to be, I don't want to say shy. It's not even shy. It's like social media has always been a little bit of like a weird thing for me. I don't think I would use it quite as much as I do if I wasn't running my own business. And I certainly don't think I'd be doing things like going live or like posting selfies, that kind of thing. And so I realized that a lot of the way that I approach things like social media and even this podcast is with this belief that I need to like show up as business owner Laura and like, be someone that you guys expect me to be, or be someone who's, professional. And I think that's been something that's been standing in my way as far as actually showing up more often and doing things like this podcast, because I just was like, oh, it's going to take so much for me to like show up and be the person that I think I need to be to, have the impact I want to have. And what I realized watching James and interacting with James and seeing how he was able to stay so present with all of us, even though there was hundreds of people that wanted his attention for 4 days total, because they had a day that was leading up to the event for one of his coaching program participants. So just being able to see that and thinking to myself, wow, I want to be like that. Like I want to have the kind of business that if people come to my live events and they come to say hello to me, that they feel like cared about and they feel warmth and calmness and peace from me, and that they can tell that I'm listening to them and, really connecting with them, and not just like that I'm, there physically, but not all there mentally. And I'm like worried about, oh, well, what am I like, how am I interacting with this person? Or should I say this? Should I say that? Because I think I can get in my own head a lot. And just being able to see the way that James interacted with us and seeing how calm he was and how engaged he was and present he was, despite the fact that he was running this massive event and literally going all over the place, doing things, planning things, making sure things were happening. He didn't have to spend any time talking to me. He didn't have to spend any time at that event, like at the cocktail party. Like he just went above and beyond to connect with us. And the event itself, we had a guy named Stu McLaren come and talk about a charity called Village Impact. That the event, we had an opportunity to donate money to this charity. It's a charity that builds schools in Kenya. And I think the total amount of money that the participants at the event raised was just over $100,000 for this charity. And James donated an extra 60 grand on top of it, of his own money towards that charity. And that was enough to build an entire school in Kenya. That was so cool to see that. And again, that just speaks to James's character and showing that, he runs a multi-million-dollar business. He lives in Laguna Beach. He's definitely not hurting for money at all. And he has no shame in the desire to make more money, because he gets to have such a big impact on the world with the money that he makes, not only with that Village Impact and building a school, but also the impact that he's having on the lives of those of us in his programs, which then ripples out to the impact those of us in his programs can have on our people. So the impact I have on you is directly impacted by the effect that James is having on me. And a large part of the effect that James is having on me is he is being a leader and he is showing up for his people in a way that I want to emulate and I want to create in my own business. And I want to create on this podcast, and I want to create in any program that I create for you all. I want that to be your experience. And so all of this to say, I know this got a little long-winded. Like I said, I didn't create any notes for this because I just wanted to kind of share with you off the cuff what my experience was. This is what the value of mentorship is. One, James shows me what's possible because he's doing it, and he's doing it in a way that is keeping him healthy and happy and keeping his team happy and allows him to live the kind of life he wants to live. So I know that it's possible for me to create an amazing business that doesn't require me to harm my health or, run myself into the ground. So he's demonstrating to me what's possible. And that's what a really great mentor does. They show you what's possible because they're walking the talk. And so if you're thinking of joining any sort of group program or one-on-one coaching program, just think about who you're going to be working with and think, do I want to be more like them? Is this a person that I want to follow and emulate and live in a way that they're living? If it's not a heck yes, then you should maybe look at a different program to join. So that's one way that James is a mentor to me, is just seeing how he's able to achieve what he's achieving while staying humble and connected with his community and, emotionally engaged in the work that he's doing. And he's so passionate about it. So it's just really inspiring to see that. And then another amazing thing that mentors do for you is they call you up. So, most people say call you out, but a term that I've learned from Anna and have heard in the BBD community is calling people up. And that means that they see what's possible for you, even when you don't see what's possible for yourself, and they create that belief for you. So this is something that I teach in my Fed and Fearless program, is the idea of beliefs and self-talk and how those things affect your ability to be successful in any area of your life, let alone your health goals. And something that a really great mentor can do is create that belief that it's possible for you and that you're capable of it, even if you don't fully believe it yourself. It takes a lot to create new beliefs. It takes a lot to change negative beliefs about yourself. And doing that with a mentor, whether that's a private one-on-one mentor, the way Anna and I work together, or that's a mentor that, you're in a group coaching program and you're showing up for the calls, or you're listening to the videos that they've recorded, like I do with James. There's so many opportunities to get inspired to be your best self and to actually have that belief that you're capable and that it's worth it, that it's worth making those changes, that it's worth putting in the effort to be the person that you were created to be and to fulfill your highest purpose. That is the indescribable value of a really good mentor. So I wanted to share that with you all because I think that in the health world, this idea of working with a coach or working with a mentor or being in a group program, it's kind of new. And I think it can scare people sometimes because they think that, well, how am I going to get any value from a group program if this person's not working directly with me? And I hope that my experience with James and Business by Design and the mentors that I've gotten from that program, such as Sarah Anna Powers, Colin Boyd, Mel Abraham, people that are in his world that are, people that I've interacted with because I'm in his group program, just the impact that they've had on my life and the impact that they've had on my belief about what I'm capable of, that is priceless. And, I would happily spend way more than what I spent on the Business by Design program to be able to continue having that kind of mentorship and support and just people that are there to show me what's possible and will tell me, hey, you're capable of this too. And all you need to do is believe in yourself and take action in spite of, the possible fear that might come up. So I just want to leave you with that. If you have never worked with a coach or joined a group program and there's anything in your life that you're wanting to accomplish, whether that's a health goal, a business goal, a relationship goal, anything, there is indescribable value of a good coach, a good mentor, and a good program that can lead you through the process of becoming the person that you are capable of becoming, but maybe you just have not created that belief for yourself quite yet. So I hope that this has been helpful. I know it kind of went all over the place. It was a whirlwind trip. I had a great time, and I hope I can go to the next BBD Live. They tend to sell out, so I don't want to make any commitment if I go to buy a ticket and they're sold out and I can't go to the next one. But if any of you are listening that are in the entrepreneurial space, definitely check out James Wedmore. His podcast, Business by Design, is an amazing group program that I definitely recommend joining next time he launches it. And feel free to let me know if this episode was helpful for you. If you have any feedback for me, let me know by sending me a direct message on Instagram. That's probably the best way to get in touch with me these days. And just let me know what you think. Feel free to tag James, also James Wedmore, if you are sharing this episode and you want to let him know that I was giving him a shout out because, I know he loves to know that he's having an impact on the world, even if it's indirectly. So let him know that, that you enjoyed hearing about the kind of person he is and the kind of impact he's having on people all around the world. So anyway, it was great hanging out with you guys. I can't wait until next week's episode. Feel free to reach out and make sure you subscribe on iTunes if you don't want to miss an episode. And leave me a review. Let me know what you'd like about the podcast. Let me know what you're enjoying and what you're learning. And I can't wait to keep supporting you guys through this podcast. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time on the Fed and Fearless podcast. Take care, everybody. Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for listening to the Fed and Fearless podcast. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to subscribe and leave a review on iTunes so I can keep sharing my best content with you every week. And use the hashtag Fed and Fearless when sharing the episodes that you love the most on social media like Instagram and Facebook so I can connect with you personally. And if you're enjoying the content I've been sharing on this podcast, you're going to absolutely love my free online training, The 5 Secrets of Fearlessly Healthy Women of Faith. This training covers the 5 most important shifts you must make in order to become truly healthy and free from fear around your health decisions. Listen, I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you were created for so much more than fear and frustration around food and fitness. Let me show you how you can experience true freedom in your health and incredible purpose for your life. If you're ready to experience true peace and freedom in your health, here's what I want you to do. To watch this free training, go to fedandfearless.com/free. That's fedandfearless.com/FREE free. You'll get instant access to this 1-hour training, and you'll walk away with a brand new method for approaching health from a faith-based perspective. so you can live the purpose-driven life you were created for. Go get your free download now at fedandfearless.com/free. All right, I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, get out there and be fearless in your pursuit of a healthy, purpose-driven life.